Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Run for your lives, the holidays have come!
Punish!
Nah, I'd rather get Raycons for the season, certainly less lethal, like their everyday earbuds. Quality Bluetooth earbuds that start at about half the price compared to other premium earbuds, giving you amazing audio quality wherever you go. I love using them during a rigorous workout session, as I mentioned before. Gotta keep the weight maintained for the winter, you get me? Their compact design feels great, all nice and snug, and they come in 5 stylish colors. Mine are white, but white's a color, leave me alone. Raycons last about 8 hours on a single charge, but with a rechargeable carrying case, you can also get up to 32 hours on the go. The perfect gift for anyone on your list this year, and with free shipping and returns, it's certainly easier on the wallet. And hey, Raycon is offering all my viewers a great deal. Click the link in the description below or go to buyraycon.com/somecallmejohnny and use the code HOLIDAY to get 15% off your next Raycon order across the whole site. Thank you as always for helping support my channel, and I hope your holiday is filled with merriment and mirth. Now let's continue on with the show. The Switch is on, Amiibo's on standby, get them while they're hot, they won't be that cheap for long. Metroid Dread is, at last, a reality. The long-awaited sequel to Metroid Fusion that's been a concept in Sakamoto's head since the mid-2000s. The game that was cheekily referenced in a scan log in Metroid Prime 3. This wasn't a Prime game, this wasn't a spin-off, this wasn't an other. This was Metroid 5. I couldn't tell you why it's taken this long. It was one of those games that always seemed like it was in the back of Nintendo's mind, something we hear about every few years through gaming websites, but never Nintendo's main priority due to Metroid's smaller fan base compared to Mario or Zelda. Perhaps they just wanted to focus on Prime in the meantime, and maybe Other M in retrospect was ultimately a testing ground for an eventual 3D sequel to the mainline Metroid games. Unfortunately, the response and fallout of Other M put the series on hiatus, and not like the hiatus between Super and Fusion, where it was unsure, but more like, ooh, we fucked up, and we need to step away for a bit sort of hiatus. For 6 years afterwards, fans would hear nothing from Nintendo concerning Samus's eventual fate, besides a continued presence in Smash Bros., and I think there was a Nintendo Land attraction? That was a Coke Dream, wasn't it? In 2016, when they finally broke the silence and gave us Metroid Prime Federation Force, that was the last thing people wanted to hear, and Federation Force, while a good time with friends, I'll say that again and again, it was dead on arrival. But then, a year later, we got a sudden but very much welcomed remake of Metroid 2, Metroid Samus Returns, that was unfortunately shadowed by the release and takedown of Aeon 2R earlier the previous year, but still Metroid was back in the public eye, and positive reception towards Samus Returns, despite its average sales, and the anticipation for the later announced Metroid Prime 4, got people excited once again for the series to make a comeback. Something Mercury's team was likely counting on, because a cool little secret in Samus Returns' gallery promised dreadful things to come. Boy, first off, that scared the fucking shit out of me when I first saw it. But oh fuck, are those evil Chozo? What does this mean? Where is this going? Earlier this year, we got our answer. Yoshio Sakamoto and Mercury's team were back to reveal their next project, Metroid 5, Metroid Dread. This box is huge! You're damn right I got the special edition when it was available. Doesn't really fit anywhere in the shelf, but I could work that out later. And it's this large because of the art book it comes with. It's a good time sink too, seeing all the environments and creatures in concept. Love the different Samus designs. Look at how chunky this one is, damn! But I am glad they stuck with the one they made final. I love the combination of plating and muscle tendons. It gives the impression that the power suit is slowly reconstructing. It's healing. It's an organic suit after all, and sort of gross to think about, but the details appreciated nevertheless. Since this is the latest game in the series, even though we're like close to 2 months since it initially came out, I'm going to give a spoiler warning right here and now. There are things I want to talk about, and that means I gotta spoil stuff, so you've been warned. Let's get into it then. It's been nearly 20 years since the release of Metroid Fusion, so of course Metroid Dread begins with a recap of previous events to get newbies up to snuff. This is actually happening, isn't it? Witnessing Samus retell events in Fusion and how she got to this point, I feel like a teenager again. I've waited for this game for so long, so even on my 3rd or 4th playthroughs, I'm still excited reflecting that I'm playing the 5th mainline Metroid game. We're finally continuing the story. With the X-parasites believed to be extinct, the Galactic Federation are distressed to learn that the parasites may live once again on planet ZDR after receiving a video from a mysterious source. In response, the Federation deployed 7 of their autonomous EMMI droids to explore the planet and deal with the issues themselves. But the EMMI droids would soon go missing, of course they did, and seeing no other solution, they once again hire Samus Aran to do the job. This is one thing I wish they elaborated on, the fallout of Fusion's ending. Secret faction or not, I would have liked to see the aftermath of how Samus and Adam explain their actions and expose the corrupted faction of the Federation to get them back in the Federation's good graces. Here, it's like nothing happened. While I'm happy things are back to the status quo, somewhat at least, it was a missed opportunity to not neatly tie up that loose end. Also, not the kind of voice I was expecting from Adam.
The bounty for this mission does not seem appropriate.
That is weird. I was expecting a little more HAL 9000. In fact, all the digital voices inside Samus's ship sound less sophisticated than your standard Alexa or Siri you can hear on your phone. What the fuck? The Federation sucks.
There are a lot of voices in my head, and Jen Taylor is one of them.
But Samus heads the planet ZDR and she's immediately confronted by the Chozo warrior Beak, who manages to overpower Samus and strip her of her power-ups in orange color, leaving her deep within the caverns of the planet. I kinda like how Samus's default color is blue now instead of yellow, and I hope this continues to be a thing for when she inevitably loses her power-ups again in the next game. With little to work with and being no match for Beak, Samus's priority is getting back to her ship on the planet's surface, but not only does she have to deal with the planet's aggressive inhabitants, she also has to deal with the EMMIs, who have been hacked by Beak and are on the hunt for Samus's precious bodily fluids. Later during the venture, Samus encounters Quiet Robe, a Chozo of the Thoha tribe who had the ability to control Metroids on planet SR-388. And then we get this unapologetic plot dump in a game that was pretty reserved up until this point. And I would say it's the slowest part of the game, suddenly getting this chunky cutscene, but I personally was just glued to the TV when he showed up because, oh my god, it's a Chozo! In the video games, they're finally doing something with the Chozo! You see, and I can finally bring this up properly, the Metroids were creations of the Chozo to deal with the X-parasites on SR-388. But after the parasites were dealt with, the Metroids were no longer needed and needed to be properly disposed of, especially when they started to evolve and become harder to control. So the Thoha tribe requested the aid of the Malkans, a Chozo warrior tribe led by Beak. But Beak viewed the Metroids as the ultimate symbol of power and didn't want to relinquish them, so in cold blood, he murdered the Thoha tribe, all except for Quiet Robe, who Beak later took back to his home on planet ZDR to work on the next step of his plan. Unfortunately, upon getting back to the planet, Beak discovered one of his soldiers was an X-parasite in disguise, causing chaos to erupt within his fortress, nearly wiping out his whole legion, with Beak barely managing to survive. And then his Metroid plans were kaput when Samus did her thing in Metroid 2. So needless to say, Beak is tremendously pissed off, but looking at the silver lining, he wants to harvest Samus's DNA since after the events of Fusion, she's now part Metroid, and part bird, and part parasite, which itself is an amalgamation of a lot of other things. Fuck, Samus is a walking petri dish of collective shit. But Samus, in an awesome moment, assures Quiet Robe, in their native tongue no less, that she will deal with Beak once and for all. And then Quiet Robe is assassinated by a robotic Chozo guard, and I'm like, oh fuck, but Samus is like, hey, that wasn't very nice. I wish she had a little more of a response seeing a benevolent Chozo die right in front of her eyes. Samus is on full-out badass mode through this entire game, acrobatically delivering killing blows to creatures much larger than her, and no-selling pretty much everything thrown at her with no dialogue whatsoever. It's powerful, but feels like an overcorrection of other M's critical response. The solution isn't to make her a complete mute. She can say a couple of things, guys. She talked plenty in Fusion and no one really hated it there. It all depends on the writing and characterization. It just so happens that other M was a bad take. Just try again from there. But with added resolve, Samus continues her trek through ZDR, eventually leading her to a Chozodian fortress where, to the player's shock, the X-parasites have made their home, and after causing some mayhem, Samus indirectly lets the parasites out, and all I could think of out loud seeing these colorful jellies roam free is that I fucked up. The parasites quickly spread through the whole planet, and we're back in Fusion territory, baby, minus the SAX. The old becomes new as the parasites take all matters of form to give Samus strife and to spread their influence. I got so giddy when I saw the giant insect turn into a Core X after you defeat it, and you had to handle it exactly like you did in Fusion. One even manages to infect the recently deceased Quiet Robe, reactivating the remaining EMMI droids after they were previously shut down. I felt really bad when I saw the reanimated Quiet Robe too. I really like this guy, and to see him under the X's influence was heart-wrenching and disturbing as hell, with him constantly repeating the last words he uttered to Samus before getting killed. As Samus nearly reaches the surface of the planet though, she notices that she's developed a new killer instinct that she almost uses on this poor unsuspecting creature, but she does use it to fucking annihilate the last EMMI droid that just gave her a good power bomb. Samus's Metroid DNA has fully activated, giving her the ability to siphon energy with her left hand. That she uses a couple of times after the fact to drain the energy of a few enemies. And Samus, you just blatantly stole Ride and Stick from Revenge, let's give it back, it doesn't belong to you. With her now being fully Metroid, Beak reveals himself after masquerading as Adam throughout the whole game. It's actually pretty cleverly foreshadowed too when you notice how Adam never addresses Samus as Lady after she lands on the planet and whenever you speak to him in the navigation rooms. Beak may not have the Metroids anymore, but he can still make the Ultimate Warrior out of Samus's DNA, and even reveals that her Chozo DNA contains a bit of Malkin, which Beak donated in hopes of one day using Samus for his conquest of the galaxy. Samus wants none of that, and in a vicious one-on-one fight, the two clash with Beak coming out on top once again. That is until Samus goes fucking apeshit as the Metroid inside her pushes Beak's shit in. God damn, she is so pissed! And she's not just draining Beak, but his entire fucking fortress is getting the good suck! I didn't know Metroids could do that, but Samus is saying none of the rules. She is the Metroid now. And holy shit, what is this suit? Oh my god, a Metroid suit! Looks like a praying mantis watermelon hybrid, which I believe given how much shit Samus has inside her now. But Beak is still alive, but not for long, as a Roman X parasite kills off what remains, turning him into a hybrid of himself, and oh Jesus, poor Kraid. But Samus's newfound power also brings back the Hyper Beam, no longer a multicolored Skittle Beam, but a full-fledged Kamehameha that she uses to obliterate Kraid once and for all. She doesn't even take the opportunity to absorb the remaining parasite, she just fucking nukes it out of the sky. God, I love that moment. Fuck this guy. The planet is set to blow, but Samus can't activate the ship's control without draining its energy, as Adam explains, but then Quiet Robe X suddenly appears and then deliberately gets absorbed by Samus so that she can fully control her Metroid powers, giving her access to the ship's controls. God, I was so fascinated by this one scene. It was great to see that even beyond death, Quiet Robe was there to help Samus. But then my mind started racing. Oh shit, so do the Chozo just have amazing willpower to override the parasite's control? Or was the X's survival instinct kicking in to get off the planet? Or maybe it was the parasite genuinely helping Samus because it absorbed Quiet Robe's memories? Does this mean a host's memories can interfere with the parasite's instincts? Oh, maybe the scientist in Fusion wasn't trying to nuke Samus with the station. Maybe he was fighting from within to kill the parasites. This ending had me going places. God, I fucking love this game. It's here. Metroid Dread is here. It's weird how there's no different endings for early completion times. You just get Samus going, yeah, that just happened. But oh my god, this game is just about everything I wanted, everything I yearned for after Mercury's team showed me so much promise in Samus Returns. It is Samus Returns, but better in just about every way conceivable. Planet ZDR is a Chozo planet, and that means, Chozo statues, it's great to see you again. Time to recharge my health and oh fuck, it doesn't work in this game. Well shit, now what do? Samus may have lost her powers again, but she'll get all the classics back and then some in time. The new upgrades are pretty cool. They finally got the Seeker missile right with the new Storm missile. The multi-lock is fully accurate with no bullshit thanks to the free aim function, and it can also be used as an awesome offensive tool in the heat of the moment. Use it against the Chozo robots, it shreds their health like you wouldn't believe. The cross bomb is also fine. I'm surprised it took the series this long to give Samus a Bomberman-esque bomb attack, but it's too situational for my taste. You use it the couple of times it's required for progression, and then it's just used to find other items, like the power bombs of yesteryear. But power bombs also make a return, so that's a little weird, and they're just as amazing as always. It's funny too because you can find ammo for the power bomb way before you actually get the upgrade, but the game calls it an unknown resource, likely a callback to Zero Mission, and it's like, Samus, you know it's a power bomb expansion, just say fuck when you pick it up, I'd get it. You also get this spin boost later. It's a double jump. Yeah, Samus gets a basic-ass double jump here, an event over 30 years in the making. I'm glad to have this, but the game still gives you the classic space jump later, and like the issue with the cross bombs, kinda makes the spin boost unneeded. It does feel like they were going for a natural progression of skills as you continue playing. You get the double jump first, and then later you get the space jump, so maybe that's what they were going for, a level up system without having a dedicated skill tree or some other shit like that. The world design, oh, it's so much better than in Samus Returns. Samus will explore several different zones containing sizable maps as she slowly climbs her way back to the planet's surface, but it never gets tiring, in part due to the streamlined design and the lack of Gamma Metroids wasting your time with their stupid back and forth, and there's also warp points taking you where you need to go lickety-split. But story progression also affecting different sections make it so that even short revisits feel completely fresh and exciting. The load times between elevators and shuttles are pretty long though. It's a nice break to take a swig of your drink, but in an age of souped up PCs and solid state drives, these are noticeably lengthy, even longer than the Prime elevators. Hopefully these get sped up in a future patch. It happened with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, so you never know, right? I also have one particular snag regarding environmental design. While every area has unique qualities to make them stand out, Dread has a great balance of organic and industrial areas to give Planet ZDR a life. The picture is nevertheless washed out because of the blackened foregrounds, which I think works in the EMMI sections to increase the tension and dread, but even the lush scenery of areas like Gavaron have darkened foregrounds that just stick out for the wrong reasons. This was never really a thing in other 2D games, you just saw everything in the back and foreground, and not even Samus Returns had this issue, so I can't even say it's because of the game's 2.5D nature. I think maybe it was done to help make exploration a little easier, to put emphasis on the stuff that you can shoot and reveal hidden things. Maybe they thought if everything was overly detailed it would make item hunting next to impossible, which is weird because this game brings back Aeon skills from Samus Returns, one of them being the returning pulse radar, highlighting breakable objects. They probably didn't place enough faith in that to help players find hidden goodies, who can say. The Aeon skills have gotten a rework since Samus Returns, and for the better, despite having less of them overall. The Pulse Radar returns as I stated, but accompanying that is the Phantom Cloak and Flash Shift. The Phantom Cloak is used almost exclusively for EMMIs. Your movement speed is drastically reduced, and the more you do, the faster the gauge drains, but it makes you invisible to EMMI detection, as long as you don't straight up bonk them. The fact that it drains your health after the Aeon gauge depletes adds a layer of desperation to the ability, but fuck, later on when I have a surplus of energy tanks, I got no problem just leaving that shit on if it means I don't have to deal with that scary robot. EMMIs are kind of the logical evolution of the SAX concept, each having a different ability they can use to hunt Samus down. The yellow EMMI is probably the worst one because it has the speed booster, and this thing just fucking zooms towards your ass when it spots you. It's so intimidating. The wave beam EMMI is also a humongous jerk-off because it can see through walls, and that's just not fair.
Accept your helplessness.
They're only limited to certain rooms in every area, but you know you're in for a rough time whenever you see an EMMI door. The first time Samus entering one kind of reminds me of Dark Souls. Did anyone else think that? Samus can do nothing to harm EMMIs. You just gotta hide or run for your life when they see you. But they're also capable of sniffing you out via your actions and footsteps, so don't think they're a dumbass like the SAX. They will eventually find you if they know you're close by. If you get caught, you do have a very brief window to escape with a proper counter, but since the timing is next to impossible to get down, you might as well call it a night. Which isn't so bad, since Dread, on top of having a generous amount of save points, also has checkpoints so that you can just pick up where you left off without having to progress too much. I went into this game knowing that the EMMIs would be a significant portion of the game, but I never took them anything more as mini-bosses, and that's basically their role here. They don't overstay their welcome despite being around 7 of them, and they're a decent test of reflexes and environmental awareness, since you have to jump and slide like your life depends on it to avoid contact, and you have to keep an ear out for the unique noise they make when they're close by, and keep your eye on the minimap to see their exact location should you lose direct sight of them. Did the Federation have these droids the whole time, and if so, man, why didn't they just fit them with guns and use these to hunt Metroids down in Metroid 2? Got people killed for nothing. To go back to the remaining Aeon ability, the Flash Shift, this is so good, you just zip in one direction up to 3 times. I didn't find myself using it during traveling as much as I thought I was going to, as I find the returning Speed Booster and Shine Spark all that I really need to fast travel, but in boss encounters it is an incredible tool to dodge incoming attacks. Metroid Dread, like Samus Returns, is tough, possibly the hardest game in the mainline series, because while the damage output from enemies has been thankfully toned down, this is a game that gives you a ton of movement options, and it fucking knows it does. Dread repeatedly puts your newly acquired skills to the test, your ass getting massacred if you don't keep up. It's the polar opposite of Other M, a game that deliberately used less buttons and a simpler control scheme to entice newcomers. Dread uses every face button, and the D-pad, and both analog sticks for a different function. Jumping, shooting, directional aiming, missile loading, the grapple beam, speed boosting and shine sparking, the returning 360-degree aiming from Samus Returns. Very happy to see that brought back. Samus has a slide now, keeping the pace going when she comes across tiny gaps, and you get your mileage out of this too because Dread keeps that classic morph ball away from you for an agonizingly long time for Metroid veterans. I jumped for joy when I finally got it from the third EMMI droid, but I'm also like, what the fuck? That took so long! But I was amazed to see that the slide was still very useful for exploration and combat. Combat especially because, oh man, Samus is going to be fighting for dear life against a shit ton of super aggressive encounters and gargantuan bosses, each containing multiple phases that require different techniques to tackle. But besides pumping them full of beams and missiles, like in Samus Returns, you can counterattack at specific points to lay on some cinematic pain, greatly putting you at an advantage. And even if you can't manage to execute these, you still have wonderful controls at your disposal. Samus's movement is so buttery smooth in Dread, and she's also a bit faster than in Samus Returns. I want to say she's as nimble and fluid as Zero Mission. It's great. The counterattack is no longer a pace-breaking crutch either. I mean, you can still take care of enemies with it as you did before, but you can also use it as you run, and it's more reliable in midair to deal with smaller targets. You're even rewarded with more goodies if you do so, but it never overpowers beams and missiles. They are about as equally as effective, so it's a matter of preference. This is the best Samus has ever been regarding capability. I feel at times the control's a little hypersensitive. I attribute that to using the analog stick for movement instead of a D-pad, but like 98% of the time otherwise, the control is near perfect. Bouncing up walls is great. Platforming is great. Bomb jumping to get stuff early is great. Metroid Dread is great. No, it's amazing. I am so happy Metroid Dread came out as well as it did, and I want to apologize for something. Some of you were expecting me to do a Sonic Mania-esque freakout, which for the record I'm glad is like the new standard in how much I enjoy new things for franchises I love, but here's the thing. That freakout was mainly out of Sega finally giving me something I wanted for over 20 years after dealing with mediocrity on top of mediocrity. Yes, Metroid has a similarly scattered history, but its track record, if you don't include Other M's story, is, I think, more positive and consistent. I know with Metroid, I'm generally getting a good time, so I had little doubt that Metroid Dread, with Mercury's theme on board especially, and from what I saw in previews, it was gonna be great. And plus, I already came in my pants when I reacted to the initial reveal. Metroid Dread! Oh my god! I waited nearly 20 years for the sequel to Fusion, and to finally play it and to see others all around the world enjoy it, even non-fans making this their first Metroid adventure, even the notoriously small Japanese base, that is great to see, and it's killing it in sales. After the holidays, this might be one of the best-selling Metroid games of all time, and that's what I want to see and hear, baby. Metroid's back! Now all I need is for Metroid Prime 4 to be amazing, and man, I really hope it is. Hopefully I'm not jinxing anything, but we'll have to wait and see when we eventually get that first trailer. This has been a fun revisit through one of my favorite franchises of all time, and I hope I've encouraged some of you to try out some of these games for yourself. There's something to enjoy from all of them, even the ones I don't hold in high regard. Now, I'll be sure to come back and give the Prime series some love when we get an idea of when Prime 4 is on the way, so we're not done with Metroid as a whole just yet, but we are done with Metroid for now. As always, thank you all for watching. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask if you decide to go outside, get vaccinated if it's possible, have yourselves a fantastic night, and see you next mission.